Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing. Okay. Give this a few more minutes until I start this stream off. I guess I could turn on music now that I'm live. Not that one. Let's use something soothing. Yeah, this one. Good morning, Amanda. Listen to this track one more time until I start this stream off. Just in time too. I don't know if you saw me making a post on the tab in my channel announcing that I'll do a live stream, but I'm not sure if that would reach out to many people. So, you know, the last time someone was on my stream was a channel called Whimsical Studios, who's also subscribed to me. I haven't seen him since... I assume it's a he. I haven't seen him since when I was live streaming the bonus content in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix for the PlayStation 3. And the music track is almost over, so I guess we could begin this right now. So, alrighty. Yeah, I'm not sure if you could hear outside this house, but my sister's mowing the yard before it gets too hot, so I hope it won't be too much of a bother, since I'm not going to be showing videos today. But yeah, let's go ahead and get this live stream started. Hello, I am Xean, and welcome to this series of live streams called A Look Back on XeanRPG 10 Years Later. Last live stream was me reacting to my first sessions of the last two Let's Plays I've done, Tales of the Abyss and Infinite Undiscovery. And in this live stream, I'm going to be discussing what I've done throughout my 3-year hiatus off of YouTube after Infinite Undiscovery. So, I mentioned yesterday that I said after Infinite Undiscovery I started my new job. It was actually during Infinite Undiscovery that I started my new job, and I actually made time work during that. Well, time. After I get off of work, I would immediately go home and start my my sessions for Infinite Undiscovery, thinking, I think I can make this work. And, it seemed like it'd be the case. Although, immediately after completing Infinite Undiscovery, I believe it was the fall season of 2017, is when I really wanted to move out of my parents' house along with my brother and sister. Also, at the time, my brother finally moved to Oklahoma, so I was ready to, be independent. And there was a house that was up for rent, and we took one good look at it, and I was thinking, this is actually a pretty good house. I was liking the interior design of it, and it had enough room for all three of us, and I was thinking, yeah, this is good. Because I also immediately wanted to continue with my Let's Playing journey. So I was kind of in a rush, but no more than a day later, I was told that the landlord wanted a payment on it, not a rent. So that kind of disappointed me and put me into a very light depression. So it wasn't until... I guess I should have seen this as an opportunity to save even more money, which I did. And it wasn't until January of 2018 that we finally moved into a house that was up for rent in town, and it took a while to settle things in. But as soon as I settled in, I immediately wanted to Let's Play again. I mentioned that I wanted to play Xenosaga Episode 2 after Infinite Undiscovery, which, as you know, that didn't happen. There were a few reasons for that. I shared a room with my brother, and this isn't going to throw any negativity onto him, but I immediately after moving into the house and knowing my brother a lot more, even though I practically grew up with him, I learned almost instantly that he is a very opinionated buffoon. He has very strong opinions on various video games out there. Like, I remember a couple of years ago, I was playing Hyrule Warriors for the Wii U, and he took one good look at the menus of the game and compared it to that of a gacha mobile game, and it really didn't sit well with me because it got me thinking that I can't play any video game in front of him without him critiquing a certain thing about it. And he's also one to talk. He plays a lot of gacha games. However, he doesn't pay a single cent. He's always been able, to this day, to get the rarest of things in those games without paying a single cent. That's some strong luck that he's got. So, yeah. That really put a damper on me wanting to continue my Let's Playing journey. And what else? Yeah, there was also another reason. I was kind of going through a challenge, which it started little by little, starting in late 2015, and it wasn't until 2018 that it intensified. And it was near the tail end of 2018 that I got fed up with it, and it was thanks to 2 YouTube channels I watched at the time that got me distracted. And I also tried to distract myself by, as you saw yesterday, Amanda, my guides for the Star Ocean series. It's thanks to that distraction that I finally got out of that challenge. And in fact, I forgot to show this yesterday, but I mentioned that I made a list of missed opportunities and things that should be changed about the Star Ocean series, in my opinion. So I think I'll go ahead and show that right now. Let's switch perspectives. There we go. All right. Let's see how that looks on the YouTube end. And this is going to take a while. The lag, the delay in between what I'm seeing now and what you're seeing now. Oh well, I'm sure you could see it. So, all right. So this is after potentially wanting to play Xenosaga Episode 2, I really wanted to make a series of videos on YouTube. My plannings for the entire Star Ocean series, since I've practically almost played all of them. This would be my setup of how I play games on original hardware or emulation. For example, for the Super Famicom, it'd be through emulation. The original PlayStation, I would play Star Ocean: The Second Story on PlayStation 3 with an HDMI splitter that bypasses the high definition copy protection, and so on. And for First Departure and Second Evolution specifically, it would be through the emulator. And there's a video on YouTube that shows you what's the best setting to play the game smooth like, and I did test this out on a update for the emulator, and they finally added a smooth filter to it that doesn't rely on the computer's CPU strength, which that was always been the biggest hurdle for the PlayStation Portable emulator. Many of the that emulator wasn't built with remakes or remasters in mind, so the games always looked weird. It's mainly for 3D games specifically, but they finally updated the emulator, and it actually, maybe not specifically, but it finally brought to mind for First Departure and Second Evolution, so I could play those games on emulation perfectly fine. And let's see. Yeah, I would make guides for First Departure, Second Evolution, Blue Sphere, The Last Hope International, and Infinite Undiscovery. And I would let's play the original Star Ocean, Second Story again, and the Divine Force. But I think, like I showed you, I was going to make a guide for the Divine Force, so that might be the let's play version of it. Will probably not happen. The guide will, maybe. And then I would review Till the End of Time and Integrity and Faithlessness, which I've mentioned yesterday. Those are my top 2 worst Star Ocean games. I didn't like playing those games. Star Ocean 5 was a ripoff and a disappointment, while 10 at the time made me extremely frustrated with how they changed its gameplay. So, yeah. And I mentioned the best to worst list, and here's the missed opportunities for the various Star Ocean games, which I don't know if you've played any game in the Star Ocean series, Amanda, but I played enough of them to know each of them through and through. So, for example, in the original Star Ocean, for the Super Famicom, the second half of the game was a bit rushed. There wasn't enough room on the original cartridge to put in the entirety of Fargate to travel on. And I mentioned that it would have been cool if the original Star Ocean was made for the original PlayStation. That way, Disc 1 would be traveling on Roke, and Disc 2, you would travel on Fargate. Kind of similar to the second story, which that would have been an amazing experience. I'm just imagining what the artwork for the original PlayStation would look like. Man, one can dream. One can dream. My imagination runs wild in this series. I never played any game in the Star Ocean series. Well, I guess if you want to get into Star Ocean, thankfully you can play it all of them on one console. The PlayStation 4 Pro, you could play First Departure, Second Story R, Till the End of Time, Last Hope, 4K, 5, and 6 on one console. So yeah, that's a Star Ocean machine right there. But for Blue Sphere, that was remade, but only for mobile devices at the time, and even then it wasn't released outside of Japan. So I have the fan translation of the original Game Boy Color, and I actually tried making a guide for that game, and I accidentally erased a file, which kind of put me in a bummer. Yeah, that hurt. But yeah, there's a character named Dorn that should have been playable, but then again, after thinking about it for a while, I don't think he had any special arts. So that would pretty much make him useless, but I guess it would have been a neat addition to have him. Fargate should have been like Final Fantasy VI's World of Ruin, which, if you don't know, in Final Fantasy VI, the second half of the game is ruined and in disrepair. And Fargate in First Departure only had a small portion of land to travel on, and it would have been cool if it may have been an inhabitable planet, but it would have been cool if there would be islands on the planet that you can traverse on that's just nothing but bonus content, super bosses even. That also would have been amazing. And a way to get back to Roke, like in the Super Famicom version. Apparently there was a way to get back to traveling on Roke in the original, which I saw that for the first time I saw that was several years ago in a video, and it looked a bit confusing. In First Departure, after leaving Roke, you can't go back to Roke. So yeah, missed opportunities for the second story and second evolution, which is mostly wishful thinking on my part. When you first visit Energy Need, Reina mentions that they're in the Outer Gardens, which is outside Energy Need's barrier on the planet, which, before meeting I think his name is Null in the PSP version. After meeting him, you don't go back to that transporter anymore. It would have been cool if you can travel outside the barrier, since there's still a lot of land to explore on Energy Need. Underwater dungeons for Expel and Energy Need. This is a mostly wishful thinking on my part, because after introducing us to this sea creature, I forgot. Oh, a Harush, that's what it's called. After introducing us to a Harush, which dives underwater and takes us to the final dungeon of the game, Phenol, it dives underwater under the barrier just to get to Phenol. And I remember when I first saw that, I'm like, ooh, underwater adventures, and that never happened. It kind of would have been cool if there were underwater dungeons on both Expel and Energy Need, especially in the second half of the game where you have the ability to travel back to Expel through virtual reality, and there's a Synard you can use to fly everywhere, including going to the Maze of Tribulation. Yeah, there should have been a He Rush in Expel as well. And lastly, this was based on a dream I had a long time ago. A hidden bonus dungeon at Energy Need, which in my dream was bottom floors on Phenol. And in that dream, like, the bonus dungeons in Star Ocean in general never played a part in the story. It's just there to give players a little bit of extra stuff to do. And in my dream, the bonus dungeon in particular actually played a role in the story. In that dream, you come across supercomputers, and you learn that the Reyna you knew that's been traveling with you since day one isn't the real Reyna Lanford, but a clone. And to explain this, the character Reyna actually came from Energy Need 700 million years into the past. Thanks to the explosion in the laboratory and the escape pod that she was in, it actually made a time warp, which got her into present day Star Ocean, the second story, with Claude. And in my dream, thanks to that as well, a second Reyna, the original Reyna, was knocked unconscious and on present day Energy Need in a coma. And Reyna sees her and starts to have a panic attack, and Claude reassures her that she's still the same Reyna that, all of us know and we've been traveling with, so her life still matters by the end of the day. But yeah, that was a very sick, sweet dream. This is the first time I've told someone this, so yeah, wishful thinking for the second story and second evolution. And then the bad Star Ocean game. Changes needing made until the end of time. I hated the Fury Gauge in Till the End of Time. I felt like it limited options in its gameplay, where you keep attacking and you have to wait until that thing fills up, and then you attack again. And the problem with that is the Fury Gauge is also how your shielding works. If it's full, you'll be able to guard against minor attacks, but when it comes to major attacks, that will break the shield. And the enemies always use major attacks, and that gets annoying. Add a fourth character in gameplay. Star Ocean Till the End of Time only had 3 characters to control, as opposed to 4 in the previous games, which, let's put it through another comparison. The Tales series, all of them, as far as I know, had 4 characters to control. Tales of Legendia and Tales of the Abyss had 4 characters to control, and they were released on the same console as Till the End of Time. And those games look a lot better, and Star Ocean Till the End of Time isn't the best looking at all. And yet it only has 3 characters to control, which I guess you would ask me, would that mean another Hungry Mouth to feed Xean? And I'm like, yes. But it'd be my Hungry Mouth to feed, so I'll worry about it. So yeah, I kind of wish there was a 4th character to control. And let's see. Yeah, I can't combo any other way without doing the hold X, hold circle, hold X, hold circle until the Fury Gauge runs out. It's kind of thanks to Star Ocean 5 that I can attack any other way. But even then, it's still comparing to another bad Star Ocean game. The bonus gauge needs work. Yeah, the bonus gauge is definitely a huge hurdle for me in Till the End of Time, where sometimes it builds up, sometimes it doesn't. And let's see. Yeah, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And when it does, you better make sure that that gauge doesn't break. And when an enemy attacks you with a critical hit, it's gone. Not some of it's gone, all of it is gone. And that is a huge, huge, huge flaw. there could have been any other way to grind for levels, items, and I forgot what other thing you get when you keep continually having that bonus gauge, but yeah, it makes late game events a huge drag, especially when characters get added to your party, and both characters I could think of at the top of my head, they start in your party at level 1 in a story event where almost everyone is at least level 30 or 40. Yeah. Ditch MP death. I mentioned that if you run out of MP in that game, which there's MP damage, which means if an enemy attacks you, you'll see your MP drop. And the first time I actually saw, like, technically, officially, the first time this happens, this was optional in the second story, but in the bonus dungeon, there is an enemy that does attack you, and all it does is drain your MP, leaving you with no way of attacking. So you're just there, and I'm like, I can't die, and yet I can't attack, so I'm stuck here. But in Star Ocean Till the End of Time, you run out of MP, you die, and that's also another huge hurdle. And lastly, number 6, go to Vendine, die plot twist. The 4D beings didn't need to exist. I don't know if I should tell you what the plot twist for Till the End of Time is. Let's just say it kind of ruined the whole perspective and the whole world building of Star Ocean for me sometimes. I mean, at first I laughed about it, but the more I think about it, the same reasons why I laughed at the plot twist are the same reasons why I hate the plot twist. So, yeah. Like I said, also, had integrity and faithlessness not existed, Till the End of Time would have been the worst game of the series. And let's see. Missed opportunities in Star Ocean: The Last Hope. You are introduced to one character early in the game named Crow, and he's constantly mentioned having his own adventure, and people talk about how good he is. It almost makes me wish that he had a standalone DLC specifically for his side of the story, which I actually wouldn't mind playing as him. It would add quite a bit of world building to the story. And number 2, you are introduced to the first character you recruit in your party, FaZe, and he has a fencing blade, and yet he doesn't have any special arts. He only has symbology, which is the magic in all of Star Ocean. Depending on the translation, it's either symbology or heraldry. Although I think mistranslated, it's heraldry, and officially it's symbology. Some games change up the names here and there, but by default it's symbology. And yeah, he only has symbology and doesn't have special arts. It would have been cool if he had special arts that utilized his fencing skills. So yeah, it also doesn't help that later on you have the option to, well, first time around you don't have this option, but on New Game Plus, you have an option to keep him in your party as opposed to recruiting another character. The official guide recommends that you don't do that, but I don't know. I kind of want to do that out of curiosity. Excuse me. Number 3, visit other continents on Roke. Roke makes a return in Star Ocean 4, and you only traverse one continent and not the other continents. I think that would have been good side content if you could do that, considering how much I've played First Departure and know how big that game is. That would have been cool. And like I mentioned earlier, if FaZe stays... Ooh, that's a bit of a spoiler. There's a character named Aramat. He's introduced sometime in the middle of the story, and when he's recruited, FaZe decides to tag along with Crow. So, and a little bit of a spoiler, FaZe ends up being the final boss. So if in New Game Plus, if FaZe stays, Aramat should have been a final boss, which, concerning how Aramat is as a character and what he's going through, it kind of would make sense if he ended up as a final boss. Let's just say that he risked his lifespan for more power. And yeah, it's really taken a toll on him. And more paired endings. I heard that some people didn't like the unlockable nature of the endings, which, yeah, I could probably see that as a issue. And also another issue with the endings is that they're unlockable solo endings. None of the characters get paired. And there are even private actions that actually have two characters talk with each other, and that doesn't affect their affinity in the slightest with one another, which, I don't know, I guess I never really saw that as an issue for me, considering I liked Star Ocean The Last Hope the first time I played it, and I loved it even more the more times I played it. So yeah. And yeah, things need to be changed in integrity and faithlessness. Yeah. Oh boy, it's a laundry list of awfulness. Yeah, the characters, their fighting styles and their special arts and magic are taken from Till the End of Time and The Last Hope. As soon as I saw the main character Fidel fight, I noticed that his fighting style matches that of Fate Lion God, the main character in Till the End of Time. And it kind of becomes a drinking game when you keep recruiting characters in that game and you try to guess which fighting style they took from. Yeah, that was bad. And let's see, don't take music from other games in the series unless you're remixing them. I mentioned that the majority of the music used in Integrity and Faithlessness came from Till the End of Time and The Last Hope, which, yeah, that really disappointed me. Under half were originals, and even then I forgot what they sound like. That's how forgettable the new tracks are. Forgo seamless cutscenes and give us actual cutscenes. I also mentioned the seamless cutscenes, which only works in the original Star Ocean and the second story because of the technology used at the time. But I mean, I know games these days are going for a cinematic look to them, and they try to make it more immersive, making it part of the gameplay. But honestly, these days I prefer actual cutscenes to watch, because at least you could skip them. These you can't skip. At least in First Departure and Second Evolution, there's an option to skip dialogue as the cutscene's going, so yeah, at least there's that. You don't quite get that in Integrity and Faithlessness unless it's a legit cutscene, which were few and far between. More original enemies. The other Star Ocean games, believe it or not, had original enemies, which they did. I saw a lot of repeat enemies in this game as well. The Divine Force had some returning enemies, but they were few and far between, so I think I'll give that game a pass. I still need to beat all of it on both scenarios just to get the full experience. Make the Cathedral of Oblivion an actual bonus dungeon. You are introduced to various portals throughout the game, and it takes you to a bonus dungeon, but it's just a 2-floor challenge. You fight enemies on the first floor, and then you go up the second floor, and I think you fight a boss, and after that you're rewarded with something. Yeah, these appear randomly throughout the story, and it's not an actual dungeon you get to walk into. The other Star Ocean games, the bonus dungeons you could actually walk into. The only exception I can think of is the Wandering Dungeon in The Last Hope, where you have to talk with someone on planet EN2. And yeah, he takes you to the dungeon, and there's no entrance to the dungeon, so you're there automatically. Traverse the stars, sure. That's the tagline on the back of the game's box. Traverse the stars. No. The only time you traverse the stars was in a cutscene, and even then you go back to the planet that you're traveling on. The other Star Ocean games has you travel from planet to planet occasionally, but you only are on that one planet in this game. Mini games, where are they? Yeah, this surprised me. I mean, I'm not a minigame guy at all, but I do know that Star Ocean is known for its minigames. But I've reached a point in the game story and I see the Star Ocean bunnies, and it got me thinking. I'm like, there's no bunny races in this game. I'm like, there are no mini games in this game. Star Ocean's known for mini games. Where are they? And I think I've read that this game didn't really have a whole lot of development time, which is why it kind of feels rushed. So that probably might affect as to why there aren't any mini games. Yeah. And the last one, maybe have us actually go to the Maze of Tribulations on foot. The only way you go to the Maze of Tribulation bonus dungeon in this game is through the starship Charles D. Goldie. And the previous Maze of Tribulations you can enter on foot, not this one, which I guess further adds to the rushed state that this game has. So yeah, I only 100%ed Integrity and Faithlessness once, and I don't plan on going back to that game at all anytime soon. So yeah. And the biggest missed opportunity in all of Star Ocean, not remaking and translating Star Ocean Blue Sphere for the PlayStation Portable alongside its first Departure and second Evolution. Yeah, that actually would have been amazing to have Blue Sphere remade for the PSP instead of cell phones. Yeah. That's all I have to say on that. And finally, missed opportunities in Infinite Undiscovery, which, surprisingly, I think Infinite Undiscovery is a much better game than Integrity and Faithlessness, and yet it also has the same amount of things that are missed opportunities to me. Total control over all characters, as you saw. You only control Capel and not everyone else. Give secondary characters their own set of skills and magic. Yeah, occasionally in that game you'll have more grouped party members to travel with you, but only for that specific segment. I kind of wish... I mean, the only option you have is which party member goes into that set, and you can't set up their skills or magic at all. Which, I mentioned that the secondary characters are pretty much useless in that game. You can't see their set of skills, which they don't have any. And if they have magic, it's lightly used, and fully leveling up their magic to max takes forever. I remember reading a way you can level up their magic. Not quick enough, but it would eventually get to max, and I didn't want to go through that ordeal. Yeah. An option to form more than one party. This goes back to what I said about the secondary characters. I kind of wish that you can, maybe not infinitely, but give us more than one party team when we really need it. I could think of a few instances in the game story where it was pretty much needed. A tutorial on what a character can do with Capel. Yeah, Capel can connect with other party members, and you can use them to do certain moves, like you saw at the tutorial for Infinite Undiscovery, where Aya can do Peacock Plume or a arrow shot to the head for one enemy. Keep better track of the side quests. Yeah, this game doesn't have a side quest list. You pretty much have to keep in mind what you did and where you need to go. I actually have a official strategy guide for Infinite Undiscovery, and in that guide, someone had the audacity to put down red X's on the side quests that they have done. Yeah, that surprised me. But then again, if I was a kid, I could see myself doing that. Man. Side quests focusing on character developments. Little did I know that the game has its own pseudo-private actions. There are conversations party members have with one another. Rarely. Even the strategy guide has that. But yeah, there aren't any side quests that actually focus on very much character development. It would have been cool if the game actually implemented something like that. Actual fast travel. Yeah, I mean, the game isn't big, by open world standards, but it's big enough to where I wish there was a effective means of fast travel. The only way you can travel from place to place fast enough is if you use the party member Crimson Bear Gustav. He has a connect skill where you can ride on his back, and you can use him to go from place to place quick enough. And even then, it's very limited. After a while of riding on his back, he stops dead in his tracks, and Capel falls off of him, and you have to do that all over again. And it can get annoying very much. Alternate story events. Yeah, for a game called Infinite Undiscovery, it really doesn't have a whole lot of variety when it comes to story events. The one thing I could think of is when you're saving Leif from a pterodactyl, and there's a red meter that's depleting, and you have to use Aya to shoot the bird. That way it could free Leif. If you didn't save Leif, I get the feeling that it would constitute a game over. But I kind of wish that if you didn't save Leif, the story would continue, and this would affect his sister Faina in a great way. Yeah, there should be alternate ways of playing the game, seeing different ways you can go through about it. And this segues into the final missed opportunity, multiple endings. Yeah, I feel like what you do in the game should affect how the game ends instead of what we got at the end of the game. Yeah, Infinite Discovery, one of those games that I wish was remade. I think it would be a pretty darn good game if it's remade. There was at one point where I also wanted to find a group of friends to see if we can do a redub of that game. Yeah. But yeah, that was my list that I forgot to show. Let me see the stream's quality. Yeah, it's still good. Yeah, that was the list I wanted to show yesterday, but I forgot. I don't know. It just left my head immediately as I was watching Star Ocean, the second story. So, yeah. Anyways, I used my guides as a means of distracting me from my challenge at that year. And, I tried focusing on other things to see if I can beat more games in my collection. I even made a small pseudo video called Decisions, where it's me. Before that, I actually made an update, and I thought to myself that I would do live streaming and reviewing. As you can see, I'm live streaming now, so that kind of worked. But for reviewing, not really. And I made that Decisions video where I couldn't decide whether or not I wanted to review Dot Hack Infection, or if I wanted to Let's Play Xenosaga Episode 2. And I left that ending ambiguous because they're both PlayStation 2 games, and whatever I insert in the PlayStation 2 is up to your interpretation. Obviously, nothing came about it. After that, I made a small text video saying that I'm taking a break from YouTube to prioritize what I was doing at the time. I was questioning what I was doing at the time, where I'm gaming, but nothing's really coming out of it, and I'm just focusing on working, making sure I saved up enough money, while at the same time trying to keep up with my game collection, even though it keeps growing, and test out new equipment that I keep buying. And that was pretty much all throughout 2019. And let's see, we eventually moved back to our parents in late 2019, and then at the beginning of 2020, COVID happened. So, moving back was kind of a blessing in the long run, considering I saved even more money, and we shared resources, considering, the state of the world and how they bulk bought pretty much everything out there. So, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a, I wouldn't say hoarder, but I tend to buy things in bulk myself when, like, I can never buy things in one. Like, if I were to buy cleaning products, I would buy 2 of them instead of 1, because I know in the long run that it would save me a little bit of money and some time. So, yeah, I'm not that simple of a guy when it comes to how I get things done around here. But yeah, that was all of 2020 for all of us, is just, staying safe and saving some money and having some priorities and think about what I'm doing. So, but yeah, eventually it's not until late, I want to say November of 2020 that we finally moved into this house. So yeah, we've been here for almost 5 years, and after maybe a few months of finally settling in and also buying a new entertainment system for my game consoles, because my game consoles were just in boxes. It wasn't until a month later that I finally got a I don't know what it's called, but I just said entertainment center. So yeah, I finally got all that set up and made sure things are connected well. And after getting internet, I started live streaming content again. The first thing I actually tried live streaming other games that aren't RPGs. I remember live streaming Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. Nobody saw it, so I don't know why I did that, and didn't help the matters that I was a few hours into the game already. Would have been better if I started over that game from scratch and then played it the whole way through. But yeah, I deleted that, and in favor, I played the extra content in Kingdom Hearts Final Mix for the PlayStation 3, which, yeah, that was back in 2021. And then I tried continually live stream. I got Kingdom Hearts 1 done and started doing the materials lists in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix for the PlayStation 3. And yeah, I think that was, a few people popped here and there. I only remember one person, Whimsical Studios, who I actually haven't seen in my chat since. So I hope they're doing good out there. And let's see. And then, some hiccups here and there with some live stream videos, like the Olympus Coliseum Cups in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. I ended up not enjoying that. And this was always a huge issue for me, time, where I try to make sure I get things done in a specific time frame, and once I hit that limit, then I just stop, because I have other things to do outside of YouTube. And there was a moment where in between certain live streams that there were huge time gaps in between one live stream and another, and that's because I fully became very aware of myself in how my attitude works and how I talked with people, especially back then. I mentioned in an update video that I wasn't friends with one person I had at the time, where at the time I didn't talk with them for 2 years, and I regretted the way that I've dealt with our friendship, and it pretty much plagued my mind for the longest time. And nowadays I'm okay, because I remember this one quote I read in a YouTube video a while back where it says, if people aren't making the effort to reach out to you, then it probably is the best thing for you. And I guess so. Some friendships don't last that long. I went through several friendships throughout my childhood, and many of them don't last above 5 to 6 years, which, I mean, I guess that's okay. I remember when I quit my first job, and a few of my friends asked for my number just in case if they needed to keep touch, and there was one person in mind, and it's actually 1 year since I've quit that job. And yeah, 1 year since I've quit that job, and she's actually one person I would consider voicing a character in this one thing I wanted to make, which I think I'll bring up at the end of this live stream. But I haven't heard from her since, but one other friend who occasionally texts me, check up on me, and yeah, she's doing okay. She finally got a job somewhere else, and yeah, I'm glad that things are doing well for that friend. She's happy now, so yeah, I'm glad. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, the new tens, the new tens for me was a very weird decade for me. After graduating high school, I just wanted to be a YouTuber, just to see if that works. And sometimes people in their own way would tell you that it probably wouldn't work, and they were right. They were right. I mean, like I was saying, I was pretty much competing against other people that are way more way good at their job than I ever would. I mean, what's the one thing that differentiates me from other people that are doing this line of work? I mean, I don't swear. I'm not that consistent. I'm probably not that interesting. So then again, I don't really advertise myself all that well. I'm not that big into promoting myself. I just like doing what I'm doing. Just have fun, just to see what people think of it. Now that I think about it, I think I would prefer just a small circle of friends than having a gigantic audience to watch me. That would probably ease my anxiety if I only have a few people watching me. So, but yeah, yeah, I became very careful in how I talk to people nowadays. So much so that I kind of almost given up talking a lot altogether. So I just stay quiet whenever other people are talking around me, just keep to myself, because at the time I thought it was for the better. Is there a way I can reach out to you? I mean, yeah, just being in chat is more than enough for me. I do know you make the occasional comment asking me how I am, and that's more than enough. So, yeah. I mean, at the very end of the day, I do know that there are people in my life that are there for me, and they always watch out for me. So even if some things go wrong, they always have my back. So yeah, I will say 2021 was the worst year for me in regards to how I view myself. And yeah, I think it wasn't until quite recently that I finally started understanding a few things. So yeah, throughout the whole week I've actually been genuinely happy. So I'm talking a little bit more, and whenever I make jokes, it it does annoy people, but it's not enough to make them angry. So yeah, I'm doing okay. That's fine. But yeah, that's pretty much what I did throughout my hiatus. And oh yeah, the whole the whole year of me adjusting to my new job, which I can't believe it's been a whole year now. This is pretty darn wild, but yeah, it has some challenges. Some people annoy me. It's weird. Like, whenever I always had this mindset where I can only do a good job if other people around me do their good job. Once they start not doing a good job, then it starts affecting me on a work level and a mental level. So, yeah. But, you know, you can only do what you do at the end of the day. And surprisingly, since I do keep to myself and I just work and I don't get into a lot of drama, so yeah, immediately the people around me don't want me to quit. So that just tells me that at least I'm doing something right. So I'm actually glad that I'm around people that want me to be around. So, but yeah, I think I'm in a good place right now. So, yeah, all in all, despite the challenges that I've had throughout the last several years, I'm doing pretty good. Yeah. Yep. And that's all. That's all I have to say. What do I do for a job? Without going into too much detail, I clean rooms. My previous job was a housekeeping assistant in a nursing home. So I could say that because, I don't work there anymore, and I doubt my information is out there, so I'm perfectly fine. I can talk about that job. I've worked there for, man, it amazes me that I've worked at that job for 7 years. My current boss was even surprised at that when I applied at my current job. She was like, it's amazing that he's lasted that long over there, considering that, yeah, the nursing home is weird. You would think that the elderly that live there get, good enough support. Like, what if they're veterans? You would think that nursing homes would be funded by the government. Wouldn't that make sense? I mean, they fight for the country, and yet they are not getting the necessities that they need. Yeah. I remember the insurance there wasn't all that good. I can't take vaccinations. It just doesn't work with me. So, and many of the insurances is preventative, and I can't do that. But yeah, my current job is as a cleaner, and yeah, I had some interests growing up that I never really pulled through. Like, I took computer tech in the 12th grade and never really did anything with it. I even took an internship in a computer repair business, but I even applied there too, and they didn't ask for an interview. The one interview I know I did back in California a long time ago was for a game store, literally called Game Store. And yeah, I remember the manager at the time. His name was Thor, believe it or not. And yeah, and he asked me certain questions of what genre I know of, and I get the feeling that some of the answers weren't up there with what he's expecting, which is probably why I wasn't hired. Which I guess thankfully I wasn't hired, because eventually it turned into a completely different game store, and then that game store closed, so that no longer exists. So I'm sure, yeah, that probably would have been a good plan. So, but yeah, I couldn't find a job in California to save my life, which is why I continued Let's Playing. So but yeah, I'm a cleaner, and it has its ups and downs. Yeah. I kind of have. I mean, apart from the people that don't want me to quit, the facilities themselves, I have nothing good to say about them because of how it was built. I mean, I know they're old buildings and they just keep building upon it. You can only polish old things enough until the cracks start forming, so yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much my life these past 11 years. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of glad that I done this whole YouTube thing and all that whatnot. Although I'm sure if I were to, well, I don't know. Maybe. I think I mentioned that I was going to show you something at the end of this live stream, but oh, okay. Now I remember. All right. All right. Let's end this off. Let's end this stream. How long have I been going? Okay. Only an hour. I mean, I didn't expect this stream to last that long, but dang, an hour. All right. Well, I guess before I show this, I might as well let's talk with you, Amanda, some more. Like, you don't have to go deep. You don't have to answer in great detail. So, you know, I said what I did without great detail. So, what about you? What kind of job do you have? Oh yeah, that's another thing. Huh. Computer tech, and I didn't do anything with it. I remember being gifted a bass guitar, and I did nothing with it. My brother has it, so you're looking for a job right now. Well, I hope you find something that you'll like soon enough. I mean, many people would tell me to, you know, just be glad that you have the job that you got, especially when they have good insurance, which sometimes I think just having good insurance isn't enough to by default say that this is a good job. Like I said, I only do a good job if everyone else around me does a good job. But yeah, I hope you find the job you're looking for, and I hope that it's something that you like, managed, pays well, actually doesn't mess with you up there. But yeah, there isn't a whole lot of options out there. I mean, I shouldn't really be picky, so maybe I'll keep continuing with this current job just to meet my financial goals, which, who knows. Have any interesting hobbies? I mean, you already seen my hobbies, but I used to draw as a kid, but I don't do much of that anymore. So, well, I'm an hour in. I might as well drink some water. Sometimes this drips. Cold water tastes good, especially in the morning, and especially if it's hot. You like to draw and paint. Yeah, man. Yeah, I don't know if I have. Let me see. I mean, I said I, I used to draw as a kid, but every once in a while I'll draw something, whatever is on my head. But, excuse me. I actually have a 3D modeling program called Blender, which I've recently delved into it just to make characters that are created in my head. It's for a story idea I've been having for almost a decade and a half now. So, yeah, that'll be the last thing I'll show before I call this stream quits. So, yeah. You know, sometimes there was for a time where I was afraid that, man, you know, use your hobby as a way of finding work, and then once it becomes a job that you probably might not like it anymore. Like, going back to the whole YouTube thing, that was a dream for everyone. Just play video games and get paid doing it. It seemed like a good idea at the time, but now YouTube has changed to the point where just relying on view count and AdSense isn't enough. Many people go with sponsorships and Patreon, which I mentioned before that I'm not a huge fan of people giving me money. I would prefer if a corporation give me money. It guarantees that I have a job and they would have insurance. So that, and you know, YouTube doesn't have insurance. And even then, yeah, I haven't been painting much lately. I'll have to get back into it. I mean, sometimes you'll need a break. I mean, I'm taking a break from gaming and my work on my story. So, yeah, it's good to take breaks every once in a while. And let's see. Let me see if I can find it. Is this it? Oh, yeah. There she is. Oh, there's the kind of updated pic, but I'll give you, I guess I can talk about my original story that I've been working on for a while. Let's see. I can't remember if this was back in late high school or a little bit after graduating high school, but I had an idea for a story. I mentioned I had a DeviantArt back then, and I had my own Smash Brothers fan fiction series called Fun Brothers, and I tried making a movie comic, but I got myself into trouble and was grounded from using the computer. So that movie never got finished, which was okay. But years after I was typing down story ideas, and the initial story was called Ice Queen. It would star 4 high schoolers, 2 girls, 2 boys, 2 16-year-olds, 2 17-year-olds. So it would start off with, like, there were 4 characters: Cecilia, Sky, Luke, and Jake. And they were trying to find summer jobs because, you know, parents like to have their kids find summer jobs. And Sky, Luke, and Jake were successful in finding a summer job, but Cecilia was kind of having trouble. And she tried so hard, and she eventually almost gave up hope. And one day, coincidentally, it was on a Saturday, Cecilia, with the last bit of her money, treated her friends to, well, they went to a video rental store first, and after browsing a few things, Cecilia, out of her own last bit of money that she had, decided to buy everyone coffee. So she went across the street to a coffee shop, and before she entered the front door, she noticed miles away on the highway that there was a little bit of smog and what looks to be fireworks from a distance, and she didn't pay much mind to it. So she went into the coffee shop, ordered her friend's coffee, and when she got out of the coffee shop, she noticed that smog and fireworks were getting closer, and that fireworks she was actually looking at explosives and gunfire. So she immediately went back to the video rental store and couldn't find her friends at all. It was as if the entire place was evacuated, and when she was done searching the entire store, she got out and it was already too late. The gunfire reached to where she was, and she had to hide from all of the destruction. And unfortunately, her hiding tactics didn't last. One particular enemy found her and knocked her out, and that was the last thing she remembered. And when she woke up, she was in a prison cell and noticed right off the bat that from her lower thigh down, her legs were replaced with robotic prosthetics, and she had no idea why. And she was trying to get used to how they work, and she was very afraid. And the guards came to her jail cell and cuffed her and took her immediately to the big bad of the entire facility, which was a robot ruler. And his shtick was that he would take 2 of his prisoners and have them fight to the death, and they were rewarded for weapon upgrades. So she used her legs to beat her enemy, and her prize was a gun that she can use. And I think I remember her also having an explosive collar on her, so she has to do what that robot ruler says, or else her head will explode. And after getting her prized gun, the robot ruler gave her a mission to find materials out there on Earth. And she did. She listened, and she was a kid. She didn't want to die, so she went out and tried to find some materials. And let's see, it was during let's see, I think, yeah, during that mission, after finding the last bit of material she needed to find, she then heard a little bit of commotion a couple of yards away from her, and it was 2 very violent robotic creations, which I guess there wasn't a whole lot of detail into why some creatures are more threatening than others, but these robotic creatures were more threatening, and I guess the robot ruler wasn't keeping a close eye on them, and they thought that Cecilia was a threat, and so they were trying to get to her. And coincidentally, she found a katana, and she used that to cut the robots in pieces. So how she ended up knowing how a sword works is beyond me. I mean, I was a teenager and young adult when I thought of that idea. So and let's see. So yeah, she knows how to use her legs, her gun, her sword, and she thought of an idea of getting some additional armor. So she found a bracer out in the open, and she put it on, but for some reason that bracer was absorbing some type of element that was within her, and it turns out that she had ice powers, hence the Ice Queen as the title. So yeah, and later on she knows how to utilize her ice powers through the control of her bracer. And the last thing I remember of making my story, it only lasted 5 short chapters. The last chapter was her finally meeting her friend Jake unfortunately, he was altered for the worst. He looked like a parasitic monster, which that's the plot to the initial prototype of the story. It was a war between robots and parasites. And that was pretty much the synopsis of Ice Queen. So, yeah. And this is what Cecilia would have looked like, which I probably should have dated this to get a better idea as to how long it's been since I've drew. So I'm not sure if you could see this. I need to get this out of the way. Let's see. Yep, there she is. Which, yeah, her model is based off, I don't know if you heard of Mega Man X Command Mission. There's a kid Reploid character named Cinnamon. Yeah, Cecilia's face is based off of her. And it's always been based off of her. Even in my reworked story, her face still looks like her. But, yeah. It even says, originally a Reploid, so it was kind of a ripoff. So, there was also one other character. His name is Cyril, but he didn't make it to the final cut of my original story. So, he's kind of reworked into another character. But, yeah, the name Cyril wasn't used at all in my story. So, yeah. The story went through some significant changes. It went from the name Ice Queen to A New Hope, which was a reference to Mega Man X Command Mission at the base where X was at. But I learned that in some forms of media, A New Hope has been used for other things. So I had to change that, and I changed the name to the planets that the characters in my story were going to go on. But then after a while, I changed the name of the story to The Savior. So, yeah. The Savior, what originally was... the Ice Queen. Originally 4 teenagers trying to get out of harm's way of a war between robots and parasites became a story about 4 soldiers helping an alien girl take back her home from a threat. So, yeah, that's the story I've actually been working on since January of this year. So, I'll give you, I'll show you what I've got so far. I don't know how well you could see that, but let me check my feed. So, oh well, I'm sure it looks good. So, yeah, the story starts off with a prologue. I'm still working a few details within the story, so this isn't a big chapter, but I get the feeling after I get the first 5 chapters done, I am going to reread it and make some improvements on it, and I'm sure part 1 will be longer if I add more additional detail. But it starts off with this. One of the characters is named Sierra Matthews, and she's giving the rundown as to some history behind the planet that the story takes place on. So, yeah, that friend I mentioned earlier that I haven't talked to in over a year after I quit my job, she's actually one person, she doesn't know this, but I consider her voicing Sierra Matthews. Every time I hear Sierra talk in my head, I just hear her voice. I just think that she might be a perfect role for this, but only time will tell. After this, then I'll show you the 3D models I'm working on. So, yeah, I'll just read to you the prologue here. 2150 AD. Mankind's technological advancements in space travel had improved significantly to the point that we were able to traverse beyond the Milky Way galaxy. Deep within the next galaxy we call Monarch, we discovered new planets, Monotrail, Senmir, Tatelanet, and even dwarf planets like Nor. A few moon colonies were colonized as well to further our research. But one planet to take note of is the planet we discovered in... Someone's car alarm's going off, but that's fine. The planet we discovered in 2160 AD, Angleron, which I think I'm going to pronounce it as Ingleron, kind of like English. So, yeah. Upon landing, almost immediately, we were greeted to the inhabitants, the Ingleronians. The males have bright blue eyes and white hair, while the females have bright green eyes and blonde hair. Both genders also have gills on their necks. We were hesitant at first, but they allowed us to roam around the planet and discover to our heart's content the people, their way of communicating, the plant life and food, everything. Not one word was spoken from them, but they got the gist on what we were trying to accomplish. It took roughly 25 years to study all of Ingleron. Down to the end, the Ingleronians not once showed any interest in our technology, so we respectfully left them alone and never looked back, thinking that this is our final encounter. But in 2235 AD, a council meeting was held. The representatives announced an important mission, allowing a team of scientists accompanied by soldiers to travel to planet Angleron and see if their theories were true. Whatever theories were thought up wasn't told to the general public. The team was led by a Senmerian doctor named Toa Sorova and a human soldier, Michael Solomon. Their ship, I don't know what this is pronounced, I just found this name out a couple weeks back, but the Lycaunia, launched in January 14th of the same year. 2 months went by, and the council didn't receive any messages from the Lycaunia. Worried, they tried to get into contact with the moon colonies in Monarch to see if anything has happened on their end. Unfortunately, there was no response. Fearing for the worst, they prepared 4 rescue vessels to venture off to Angleron. Several members volunteered for this effort, 2 of which were my father, Edgar Matthews, and our family friend, Samantha Wallens. The vessels immediately took off, and the council was expecting a good outcome, but they too never made it back. Feeling defeated, the council decided to cease any and all further rescue efforts. Many families, never knowing what has happened to their loved ones, has plagued the council with guilt. Never mind the cost of it all. Here we are now in the year 2245 AD, still thriving. We've managed to recover quite a bit. It's a ways away, but we're getting there. Everything has been going smoothly, all things considered. And yet, I keep looking up at the sky, longing. My name is Sierra Matthews, and I've traded myself for many opportunities in my line of work. But my reason for becoming an elite soldier was so that one day I can go to the planet Angleron and find out what has happened to the Lycaunia. Were the scientists' theories correct? Did something get in their way? Were they killed? Are the Angleronians safe? Such questions keep me up at night. I know that the council doesn't want to take any more risks, but I'm willing to take that risk. I know my mom wants to take this risk as well. I just wish we were given one more chance. And she's still looking through the window. Maybe one day. And then someone over the intercom in her room. Matthews, you are to report to the council. A new mission has been assigned to you. I'm on my way. She begins to walk to her door, but turns her head to her workroom window. She looks down with a disappointed look on her face, and then back up with confidence before heading out. Yeah, that's the prologue for my story, and I've been working on quite a few chapters. Like 1, 2, 3, and 5 are finished. They're not complete. They still got a few things that I need to trim and add. So the hardest chapter I'm working on right now is chapter 4, the moon colonies. So yeah, I'm kind of excited to work on something like this. So much so that let's see if I can add this here. So much so that I've begun doing 3D models. So let's do this one first. Yeah, I'm working on one character's head right now, and this is what it looks like in render. Let's get out of edit mode. Yeah, there it is. I'm trying to figure out how hair works, so this is all we have. This is all I have so far. So yeah, and let's see. As for her body, no, don't save. Yeah, this is it's a prototype first and foremost. So this is not going to be the final look of her. In fact, this is how the color would eventually look once I add more things to it. This would be the Federation work uniform, and I mentioned the Cecilia in Ice Queen has her legs cut off at the beginning, and this is the result of it that I'm working on. So yeah, but yeah, that's what I'm trying to do right now. I mean, my dream is to make this show a reality with the extra time that I get. But I mean, if I can't have this realized as a show, then a few other backup ideas I have in mind are audiobooks, or maybe something similar to that of, what are they called? Like a PowerPoint presentation? Or something like the still drawing animated cutscenes from Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, even though I can't draw. So yeah, that's something to keep me a bit busy here and there. So, but yeah. Yeah, who knows how long this would be realized. For all I know, it probably won't. It probably won't get realized. But only time will tell. Let's see. Yep, stream's still good. I might as well add an additional title to that if I can. Let me see. Alright. What I've been working on. Yay! Nice. Okay. Yep. That's pretty much all I have to talk about right now. I can't think of anything else at the top of my head. So, yeah. I do know that my excuse me. I do know that my brother and sister have been working on their stories for years. For my brother's case, he's telling his stories through music. And I like sharing my ideas in between my sister and I. Both of us, for some reason, have almost similar plot points. Kind of like Star Ocean, the Tale series. It's very fun to compare and contrast. So, yeah, I think at most I want to have full 3D models of my characters to give my siblings a better idea as to how the characters look like. That way they'll understand whenever I get this story done. Yeah. It was actually kind of thanks to two YouTube channels that work on fan creations of the Star Fox series, A Fox in Space and Star Fox Event Horizons. Yeah, it was actually thanks to A Fox in Space specifically that I wanted to do my story and the character models. So yeah, I have a few people in mind if ever I want to have the voices for the characters. I do know my brother will voice one character. I mentioned the characters Luke and Jake in the Ice Queen prototype. Yeah, Luke was a nerd. Jake was the cool guy in Ice Queen. There is, I mean, yeah, the names were kind of switched in my in the Savior. Jake became the name Jacob, and he is kind of a nerd. It does show occasionally in the story, but he's very well-meaning. And for Luke, he's not the cool guy, but he keeps to himself. He rarely talks, and he's very good at his job as a high-ranking super soldier. So, yeah, some things made it to the Savior after Ice Cream. The only, like, the name Sky, Cecilia's friend who's a girl, the name Sky isn't used in the Savior. It's yeah. I'm actually glad I did this stream. There was a lot to get off. Yeah, there was a lot to get out of my head. So I've talked to my mom about this. Like, whenever it's serious, I talk to my mom about the things that are in my head. So it's also thanks to last week when I attended a convention that pretty much gave me a better viewpoint in the world and myself specifically. So I had a fun time last week. I never thought that I would like to help out as a parking attendant, which, if you were wondering last week when Amanda, when you asked me if I was live streaming and when I didn't answer immediately, that was because for those 3 days, Friday through Sunday, I was helping out as a parking attendant. By the time I got home and woke up for the next day, I didn't have time to get on my computer. So, yeah. hmm And also, man, yeah, for the 3D modeling side of things, I've been basing some ideas, like, I have some ideas based on things that I've found throughout the year of my new job. For example, just recently, without going into too much detail, there's one place where I work at that involved art, and one person made a dragon's eye, and it's actually pretty darn pretty. Pretty darn pretty. I used pretty twice in the same sentence. Yeah. Yeah. There are creature ideas for my story in The Savior, and I need some nice detail eye ideas. So, and it can even be something as small as a terrain thing. Like, I do know that in my story there's going to be a general layout of certain research facilities, and I think you get this from inside some type of tool, but to me, this kind of looks like a research facility if you were to draw it out on paper. Like, those circles would be buildings, and that rectangle thing would be kind of like a storage unit. So, yeah, weird shape. Like, if ever you want to work on some original creations, if you need any influence or some type of advice, if you see any unique looking shapes in your general environment, take a picture of it. It probably might benefit you in the long run. So, yeah. Yeah, I like to collect pretty things whenever I see something. Like, it was stuck in a room all summer, and before I went on a deep cleaning venture with my coworker, um, I guessed that that dragon's eye would stay in that room all summer, and then by the time I got back to that room, I'm like, I called it, and no one took it, so I'm taking it home with me. So, yeah, I did that. I mean, if no one calls dibs, if I see something that I like, I'll take it. So, yeah, that's one thing I liked doing as a kid. It started when I was in junior high or middle school in some people's case. So, I would constantly look on the ground, and I would see many small knickknacks on the ground, and I would pick it up, take it home, clean it, make it mine. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't think you saw my second stream, but I showed these off. Made out of various materials I found throughout the years. These are the ones I've kept for the longest time. Like, I think I made these in my high school years, and they've been touched up with more durable pieces. They're supposed to be robots in my story, so. Alright, so yeah, I think I've pretty much talked about what I wanted to talk about in this live stream. For my next live stream, which probably might be a big project, it'll be me showing my game collection, my up-to-date game collection of what I got so far. And I have ways of showing the entirety without getting the games off my shelf. But for the games that I can't show without taking them off the shelf, then I'll show. I do know that the handheld games will have to be shown. The home console ones, I don't have to show the majority of it, except for maybe the original PlayStation, since I don't have a accessible way of playing those easily. So, yeah, that will be next live stream, my game collection. So, yeah, that will be a hard setup to do, since I still have my old TV lying around, and I've yet to sell it off. Just making sure I'm not missing anything else before I call it quits. Well, I guess before I call it quits, I need to engage with my audience. That's what streamers are supposed to do, right? Well, it's the end of the week, so Amanda, how's your week? How has your week been doing? Let me change the description for this first. As well as discussing what I've been working on. Let's see, talking about it. Okay. Alright. It's been okay. It's been okay. Well, at least okay is better than bad, so... As long as you're still here and you're keeping on going, then... Uneventful, huh? Yeah. Yeah. Uneventful. Like, what's funny is that I was working with the same coworker I worked last summer, and she's going to start in a different position that isn't a cleaner, and she told me, you better improve your leadership skills, and I'm all like, oh man. Because, I'm not going to lie, working at the nursing home, I hated training newer housekeeping assistants. Because, to me, they don't last that long. Like, they either get fired, they quit because they don't like it. From my perspective, it became a waste of time, effort, and breath. So, I mean, I don't have that good at leadership skills. Like I said, I don't really talk with very many people at my job, and I keep to myself, so they know I do a good job, so they never really bother me with anything. I really hope I don't train people next summer. Because you only work with the equipment for the deep cleaning summer times, and you don't work with any of it during the whole year. So, yeah. I assume pretty uneventful for you would mean that it's been a relatively boring week. Not a whole lot happening. I don't know why I still have that open. Like I'm picking up Blitch now. Okay. Well, I guess I'll call the stream an end here since I have other things to do right now. So, I guess I'll say bye for now because there's a delay, and I appreciate you sticking around on my stream and listening to what I have to say, Amanda. And I hope you have a good lunch, so... I don't know when I'll stream the next time, but I'll try to post on. I'll try to leave a comment on the post tab on my channel when I'm announcing my next live stream, which it probably won't be next week, because I think I'll have plans for next Saturday, so I guess we'll see. So yeah, have a good lunch, Amanda, and I'll see you next time I live stream. So bye for now.